Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. The countdown to extinction. Sunlight greets Thrall and his companions as they escape the underground lair and make their way back to the surface. For those of you that didn't see it, yes, Thrall has just escaped the clutches of the Murlocs. Sinjin is sadly dead. The trolls are now joining us in trying to escape from this sinking island. Let's see what this adventure holds. This is the last one of our prologue campaign.
You have slaughtered my minions
And there's our
defiled
non-Queen
my
Ajara
sanctuary.
Naga witch.
Now you will be drowned by the wrath of the tides.
You'll have no more sacrifices today, witch. Go back to the depths where you belong.
Very well.
Big words.
Your choice is made. The air you breathe now will be your last.
So basically the gist is the island, while we were being captive, a volcano has erupted, the island is sinking, we're all doomed. We have to use the ships we stole from the Alliance to get out of here.
The nearby volcano erupted. This entire island has begun to sink.
How long to repair the ships?
The repairs are nearly done.
It's only worrying those peons are using axes on the metal parts of the ship.
We're about
That
to have
doesn't
company.
bode well, Thrall. It might be
Defend the
repairs might take
ship
slightly
at all
longer than we
costs.
think. If this is the best we've got. So basically this is a just stand and defend.
Let's get on with it. Who you want me to kill?
So we've got 3 entrances.
Hey, where'd the others go? They go with you?
Thrall can go on that one.
The war chief. Say the word.
You can go on that one.
Where she want me to go?
You go on that one.
How may I serve?
Okay, where is
Ready to work.
And we're going to upgrade on Thrall. So we get this sorted, and then we can have. Let's get the Wolfies. Then we can have a Natter.
The spirits are
There
restless.
we go. So yeah, it's a good one just to talk about stuff. We just have a good old catch up.
Ready to work.
Talk about some wowage. So I will apologise, by the way, if this this looks a little laggy or anything. It is not at my end. The game's been a particular pain today. I've had it. This is the third time I've done this campaign now. Which is a tad frustrating. Especially as we've actually been having a really good, I say conversation, I've just been talking to myself like a crazy person. But it's been really good just to talk about some WoW. But,
What do you want?
I'm a no-lifer. I can happily talk about WoW 3 times. And, just keep gassing on. They should be fine then.
I can do that. Work.
Put that one there.
Be happy to. Need something.
There, you're fine there. Build that bit. Tools, and that one built there. Alright, we're going to need some barrows soon, but we're right.
We need more lumber.
More lumber! It's my other computer going off now. Oh my god! So yeah, this is the last story. As I said before, this is the last one in the kind of the Horde prologue. Next, we are on to a certain young prince that people may be somewhat familiar with. If you know anything about Warcraft lore, yes, of course I'm talking about Arthas. Which is one of, I was going to say one of the best storylines they've done, but I don't think in Warcraft 3 there is a bad storyline. The founding of Orgrimmar is also one of my favourite stories. With Jaina and Theramore and her father and everything else. It's a fantastic storyline. Absolutely fantastic.
I am the war chief.
Get those built, please. Thank you. You'll do anything there. Yeah, fantastic storyline. Almost, yeah, probably actually on the same level as the Arthur storyline, which is just in fantasy. Full stop. The Arthur storyline. The only storyline is not original. It's not, you know, it's basically a revenge story, and what it what it costs him to gain his revenge. Then thrown in with, then it goes into a whole, you know, that's kind of the end of Arthas, and you become that story of the Lich King. But it's absolutely fantastic and simple. I was thinking about it. Now that we have Warcraft 3 Reforged, and love it or hate it, whether you're somebody that's like, oh god, this, you know, Warcraft 3 Reforged is awful, and yes, without a shadow of a doubt, it has some huge issues that need to be sorted. It has potential to open up some interesting possibilities, because, okay, let's take the new book. We spoke about it the other day. Talanji, when you read the first chapter, is very much, you know, fudge the Horde. The Horde don't mean anything, you know. You can't offer me ships, you can't offer me troops, you can't offer me anything. You know, you can't even protect your own stuff, so why the hell would I be in any way interested in becoming part of the Horde? You know, she is part of the Horde, but she's really snide about it. She's really snippy. It's like she doesn't want to be there. And I'm thinking, but that hasn't been set up. The whole point was that was all the other trolls. That was her father to a certain degree. Blinkered, like, everything's fine with us. You know, they don't have a navy. The Zandalorian navy's gone. The Alliance sunk pretty much the whole thing. And then Nathanos thought it'd be hilarious to take the last ship they had and sail it off the edge of the coast. Like, that boat now that comes to Desiralore and takes you to the Echo Isles, that's like the pinnacle of the fleet. That's the only thing left. And yet, she's gobbing off. I understand it is for the need of the story that we have to have that. But it would be far more interesting if we had instead kind of an introduction to how it's come to be like this. You know, whether it's the voices of her people, whether it's just she's become disillusioned, whether she's beginning to regret this decision. It's difficult to show that in a novel, in a small book. You know, you almost need like a Chronicles to go into that kind of depth. You need, like, you know, a story of ice and fire. You need a huge tome, not just an easy holiday trash novel read. That's not to say these books are trash. 99% of the Warcraft stories I find absolutely fantastic. But a prime example would be the one book that I didn't like, which was Before the Storm. And I've made no, you know, secret of my absolute loathing for that book. And a lot of the liberties it took with the lore and the characters. But I sit there and I think, I don't know why I did that. I've got guys that are going to have free shortly. But I'm sat there thinking, in all fairness, Kirsty Golden is a good writer.
Work complete.
And I feel that with Before the Storm, her hand was very much tied behind her back. Now, was there stupid issues? Yes. But, you know, things like... Let's put some of these down. Yeah, things like... the whole storyline between Gen and...
Your efforts are futile, land dwellers.
and Sylvanas was cut from Legion. We basically got Sylvanas trying to steal the lantern. Gen stops her. Gen gets shot by the arrow, and then that storyline descended into PvP towers, and that was it. There was a lot more of that story that needed to be told. In a book, you can't do that. You cannot tell that story. As I say, not without making it a huge multi-part book, which you don't want if it's just meant to bridge the gap. If you made it a kind of mini campaign in, you know, a little DLC or something for Warcraft 3, you can suddenly tell this story of Sylvanas and Gen and what they went through and what happened after that moment. You can tell a little bit of a prequel bit. Then you can tell the story of Before the Storm in Warcraft 3, and it's more immersive, it's more understanding. Okay, this is what they went through, this is what happened. Oh, okay, I get it now. I see why. Rather than just Lantern got destroyed, Gen got shot, she needs to sack Stormwind, and then she burns down a tree. It's like, what? What? You need to give me a little bit more than that. It's just kind of, what?
Get on with it.
Yeah, you could have had a little mini thing of going to the Undersea and seeing why the Forsaken Council developed in Warcraft 3. or it's difficult to give that amount of depth. Yeah, that could have just been one mission, but it would have told a lot more of the story than we got. And I think if we've got these tools, we should use them. Like, Christ, yeah. I would love to see more stories told in a kind of Warcraft 3 setting. That's if they're not going to do it. If you're not going to do a Warcraft 4, then give us more stories. Because at the moment, the biggest issue that I see in Warcraft storytelling is the lack of depth. It's all very wishy-washy and changed to suit what is required in that moment. And that's a real shame, because right now, we've got some interesting new characters coming through with the allied races. We've got some mainstay characters which are going through really interesting story arcs. And I'm looking primarily at, generally, a lot of the alliance characters. I'm looking at, you know, Illyria. What has she actually just been through with regard to having, you know, an old god, a, you know, lieutenant of the Void Lords, roaming Azeroth? How has that been for her? Yeah, you've got Tyrellian, who is, in essence, like a Captain America type. He is a man out of time. When he went into the ice, so to speak, the Horde were the big evil. He did everything he could, sacrificed everything to protect against the Horde. And then by extension he fought for the light to protect against the Horde's masters, which was the Legion. Like, how conditioned is he to see the Horde on Azeroth as anything different to what he faced? Interesting storyline. That's the sort of world we need to get into. And I know people say, oh, but it's like Star Wars. Oh, it's the space wizards, and it's just a game where space goats, and it's like, oh, fuck off. The Arthur storyline, the bombing of Theramore, the raping of dragons, if you go into the lore of WoW, it is dark. You know, it is really dark. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to explore if you do it in the right way.
I can do that.
You know, I mean, just look at what's befallen the Zandalari trolls just by joining us. You know, Rastakhan, their king for countless ages, is dead. You know, his inexperienced daughter has taken over at a young age. They've lost their navy, they've lost their power now. All of this for joining us, or for working with us. You know, there's so much rich history in WoW to explore, and new stories coming through. As I say, if you look at the Alliance, and I mentioned Illyria and Tyrellian, but let's go wider. Look, Tyrande. Tyrande is on the cusp of an amazing storyline. Absolutely phenomenal if they do it right.
Research complete.
You've got Gen, who now he's still a hawk. He's still, look, war is going to come. Don't suddenly take all of our weapons and turn them into plows, Anduin, because the Horde will come. Something will come and it will try and kill us. And you need to be fully prepared for that. Because if you're not, we're all dead and we're all doomed. And then you got Tyrande, who's just, no, I'm out for blood. You know, I want Sylvanas dead. I am out for blood, and will accept nothing less. And Anduin is all about, look, I get what everybody's talking about, but if there's not peace for the people, then what's the point of any of this? If we are constantly at war and people are constantly dying, then what is the point of us even going on? You know, and his struggle with that. It's fascinating storylines. Get some spikies going. It's not Horde about the spikes. There's so many good storylines that are right on the cusp, and it'd be a real shame if we don't utilise the tools that we've got. I was almost thinking, because I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but the Blackwing Lair, the new raid, I say new raid with air quotations, has come out for... Let's move you guys back a minute.
How may I serve?
Put you there. Yeah, the new raid has come out for Classic, and it's already been completed. It was completed like 44 minutes or something ridiculous
What you be craving?
after it was launched. It was done. I think, but there's nothing new there. It doesn't matter if you do a TBC. It doesn't matter if you do Wrath of the Lich King. I understand that having it out and up until that point is basically, you know, you're trying to stop the private servers. I understand that. But you're not offering anything new, and this content will just be crushed, it will be destroyed through, and then when we reach Wrath, what happens then? But people like the playstyle. They like the way Classic feels, the way it plays. So why not use Classic WoW as almost like a what-if scenario? What if things were different? What if different things happened? Damn. We didn't kill her fast enough. I didn't even notice that. So, for instance, when, let's say, Medivh opened the Dark Portal, what if he did it for the Alliance and not because, you know, Sargeras was within him? And the Alliance go through, you know, as a invading army or whatever else. The Alliance like, yes, let's go through! Da, 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 da. You know, with riches and gold and things. And so they go through, and it's the... When you've done the Magar Orc storyline, if you've done the Magar Orc storyline, you'll know that the Army of the Light becomes almost fascist. You've got, you know, Garrosh as part of it. It's a crazy, and they're trying to destroy the uncorrupted Magar Orcs. If you don't join the light, you're dead.
For honor.
What about the Alliance go through the portal, and it's that kind of world they go to? It is, you know, it is literally, the orcs are almost wiped out. It's almost completely controlled by the Draenei Army of the Light. Some orcs have gone over to that side. And you've still got the classic controls, but that's now the world you've got to face. It's kind of a what if. You can make interesting raids, interesting storylines, interesting things. It's not canon, it's completely outside of that. It gives people the classic feel, the classic toys to play with, but it gives them something different and new that they haven't seen before. And I would more than happily go and play that, just to see these kind of what if storylines. What if just these things were a bit different? And I understand I very flippantly went over the whole Medivh opening the portal thing up. It was kind of just to give you an example of the kind of story idea. But there's tons of stories that you could do, that you could change. And as I say, we've got all these tools now. We've got Classic, we've got Warcraft 3 in this new reforged state. And if you're not going to make a 4, why not use these tools to tell the expanded story of World of Warcraft? Because with these characters being in such interesting positions now, which we haven't had for a while, we haven't had characters in this kind of interesting state. Yeah, I'm going to be honest and say for a while. You know, Warlords of Draenor, you know, I would say the last time Mr. Pandara was the last time I really thought the story was good, interesting, deep, and not necessarily as black and white as everybody makes out. Because I am one of those that, well, Garrosh waited for Theramore to be empty. You can argue, you know, should he have used that kind of weapon? You say yay or nay or whatever, and that's a long-standing conversation. But he waited for Theramore to be empty. He wanted it as a military target. He wanted it gone. If your whole plan was war and conquest, then yeah, Theramore cannot be. It's an alliance base right there. If you can fill that thing up with troops, fill it up with high-ranking commanders, and nuke it, brilliant. And you don't lose a single horde troop, that's perfect. You know, so, but it made people debate. It made people have conversations. It made people think, Jesus. You know, there's an absolutely outstanding bit where I remember, oh, and I can't remember her name now. This is what I mean by I'm definitely not Nobble, where I can't remember. Was she something Sparks? It was Jaina's assistant. It was a little gnome mage. that Jaina worked with, or is Jaina's assistant, something like that. And when Jaina goes back through, she's literally just dust. She's like this statue almost, and she just explodes into dust. And it's like, Jesus, like that's not holding back. That is not a space wizard story for children. That's dark. And there's, we've had dragon rape, we've had all sorts of horrific things happen in WoW. And it's that makes the story. You've got to have that to have the light. You've got to have that to have the Anduins make sense of this world.
I can do that.
And that's what worries me, where we go down this route where everything's light and fluffy, and the Horde are good, and the Alliance are good, and we don't explore the darkness that's within both factions. The Horde is now just, oh, well, the Horde are not really working together again. It's like, it's boring, you've done that so often now. Instead, let's talk about how the Horde are reconstructing themselves, how they are going without a leader in this council. How's that working? But in a positive light, let's look at the Alliance. How's that working now? And let's explore these concepts, not just in a simple little novel, but let's explore it using, as I say, these greater tools that we have at Warcraft 3, like WoW Classic.
Your deaths are only the beginning.
We are done. 30 seconds left, and we are leaving this place to go and sink into oblivion. So they're going to send a lot of troops against us, and that's it. But we've got enough guard towers and everything else. We're fine. We only got to last 15 more seconds, and that is it. As I said, that's the prologue done. Then we are on to the story of Arthas, Invincible, and yeah, I think we all know where that ends up. So it's going to be a good one. I love that storyline. That is me done, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, we held out. Let's get out of here, Thrall. Get on, little peon.
Sail on, land dwellers, flee! The dark tide is coming to swallow you all, and once it begins,
There will be
there will
nowhere
be
to
nowhere to
hide.
hide.
I don't know exactly what the witch was talking about, but I do know that our destiny lies elsewhere. For now, we set sail.
I'll tell you what the future holds for you, buddy.
That
Some
is
weird
where
red
our
love
future
beads and a
will
Hessian
unfold.
sack. Sad face. It's me done, ladies and gents. Have a good one.